Fit Life for Busy Parents podcast. My name is Coach Cam, and our mission here is simple. I want to empower you as busy adults and parents to believe in your abilities to achieve your fitness goals through easy and simple strategies to be able to follow. Okay. And what we're going to be doing on day or episode 5 of the Fit Life for Busy Parents podcast is talking about what exactly a nutrition label is, how we can learn to be able to read this, and how this is going to help us on our fitness journey, right? So, first things first, let's go ahead and get up a nutrition label here in the background so that you guys can see exactly what we'd be looking at, okay? So, what I have behind me is a nutrition label, okay? I'm not sure exactly what food this is for, but it's going to be able to work for our purpose, okay? So, the first thing that we want to be able to look at when we're looking at our nutrition label, just like we have behind us, right, is the calories, okay? What this is going to be the total amount of energy that you're going to be able to get from a serving of said food, right? Whatever that food is, right? So let's say that this is some kind of a pasta, right? We're having that pasta. A serving of that pasta is going to be 245 calories, which is going to be how much energy we receive from eating it based off of the actual amount of fat, which is up here just above my head. And over here, if I move to the right angle, I always have to learn which way, the total carbs and the total amount of protein, okay? Each carb and each protein are actually 4 calories per gram, okay? 4 calories for carbs and for protein. And fat is going to be, I always have to figure out which way I'm going here. Fat is actually going to be 9 calories per gram, okay? And so when you break those down, all of those together should be able to get pretty close to, see, I told you I'm going to keep doing it, the total amount of calories that we have for a serving of said food, right? So what exactly does that all mean? Right? Why is this important for me to know? So calories, right? The amount of energy that we're taking in is what's ultimately going to determine whether we end up losing weight or we gain weight, right? Because if we take in calories and it's more than what we burn out, right? So we take in more than what we release on a daily basis, we're going to store fat, right? We have more energy, we didn't use it all, so we're going to store it and save it for a later time. Okay. Now, the exact opposite is true if we're below that, right? We end up being below, right? We take in less than what we end up pushing out or burning off, right? Then our body taps into that stored fat and uses it as energy to be able to keep us moving, right? So this is for basic things, right? For like our heart to keep beating, our lungs to keep breathing, our brain to keep working, and also for things that we're doing on a daily basis when we get up and sit down from the couch, right? When we run around, if we're playing sports, if we're walking from, one place to another, right? All those things that are burning calories, burning energy, right, is what we're going to be using this for, right? So with that being said, when people are counting calories, right, the reason for that is usually to be in a calorie deficit or be in, a calorie surplus if you're trying to either put on muscle or things like that, put on weight, right? To be able to determine whether we're gaining weight or we're losing weight, right? And so the reason why that's important for you to understand is because this is what people are usually trying to do when they are trying to lose weight, right? Which is 90% of what we talk about here on a weight loss journey is losing weight, right? So if people are trying to lose weight, but they're just going to the gym, the likelihood that they end up losing the weight, at least consistently enough that they want, is relatively low, right? Because they're not watching, I have to keep figuring it out, not watching the total amount of calories that they're eating. So if they're burning more calories, that's great, right? It sounds like, hey, that should work for me. But then we get more hungry, we end up eating more, and then that doesn't work, right? Same thing when people are only cutting carbs, right? Carbs, or they're doing a really low fat diet. See, I got it that time. What we're doing is because we're cutting those things, we are actually in a calorie deficit. So the only way that carbs would work differently for us, is if we're not eating any carbs. Then we'd go into something called ketosis, and that's a whole different situation. But if we're just eating low carb, meaning that we're still eating some carbs or we're eating net carbs, we're just in a really, really low calorie deficit. Okay. And so that's important to remember because of the fact that a lot of times people demonize carbs and say, hey, carbs are the reason why I'm fat. This was me. Okay, this was my past. I used to demonize carbs and say, hey, this is exactly why I'm fat. It's because I'm eating carbs. Carbs are bad. They don't do anything to put on weight onto the body. And it's just factually not true. Okay. So again, go back to our original point. The point of being able to look at the calories and understand this is so that we can understand how much we're putting into our bodies and how much we need to be able to burn off to be able to be in a calorie deficit, right? Meaning that we take in less than what we burn off, and so that we can actually lose that weight. That's what's ultimately going to cause that to happen, okay? Now, the second most important one that we look at title training, right? What we look at here, and when I have my clients as a coach, what I look at is and I keep doing it, is the protein, okay? The reason why protein is so important is for a multitude of reasons, and let's go through them, right? First thing is, again, carbs and protein are only 4 calories per gram. So you can have a lot more protein and keep the calories a lot lower, right? Obviously, it's only 4 calories, right? The second reason, though, is because compared to carbs, right, even though they're both only 4 calories, protein is going to keep you a lot more full, while carbohydrates in general, if you're just eating carbohydrates, could make you more hungry, right? Because again, carbohydrates break down into sugars. Sugars get our insulin levels up, which can cause us to be more hungry. Whereas protein is actually a macronutrient, right? One of the 3 macronutrients, or 4 if you count alcohol, that actually causes you to be more full because it takes so long to break down in our stomach. Okay. It's a slower process. And this is also why, for people who have blood sugar issues, eating protein can actually help for their blood sugar to stay down. Because even if they are eating, ah, keep messing up the carbohydrates here. Even if they're eating the carbohydrates, by having more protein in their diet, it's causing the whole breakdown of the meals that we're eating to slow down, right? Because we're breaking it down a little bit slower, and it's causing our insulin levels to not skyrocket through the roof because we're not releasing the carbohydrates or the sugar as quickly, okay? And so again, the reason why this is important if you're trying to lose weight, right? I'm sorry, on the science experiment, I get all jazzed up about this stuff, is that protein is important to be able to keep you full, which is obviously important, right? We're in a calorie deficit. We're trying to enjoy ourselves. We don't want to be starving when we go to bed, right? The second thing is it's going to allow us to make sure that the time that we do spend in the gym is actually worth it, right? And what I mean by that is this: when we're in the gym and we're ripping apart that muscle, right? We go in there, we're doing bicep curls, right? We're ripping apart that bicep. What we need to be able to help build back up that bicep and get it nice and strong again is amino acids, which is exactly what protein breaks down into. So by having enough protein in our bodies, it allows us to be able to use it to be able to build back up that muscle and optimally recover. So some people actually say that by having better, consumption of amino acids, right? That's why people take something called a BCAA or an EAA, right? A branch chain amino acid or an essential amino acid can actually help with the recovery from the gym, right? From our ripping of that muscle, because of the fact that it's able to go in there and assist right away and can make it less time that you're sore and things of that nature, right? Now, that's all great, right? And that's why at title training, the two that we focus on is protein, getting it, and the calories, right? Those are the two that we focus on, again, because calories can dictate whether we gain or lose weight. Protein is going to help us to stay full, plus help us to either gain or lose muscle, right? Gain muscle is what we're looking to do. And again, having more muscle is going to mean that we got to continue to feed that muscle, right? We got to continue to nourish it so that it continues to be something that we have to be able to continue to grow, right? That means we got to burn more calories to be able to keep that muscle just maintained, right? And then in addition to recovering, right? So going to the gym is great if we're doing the other things here, right? AKA doing the calorie deficit, AKA eating enough protein to make sure that we can optimally repair that muscle, and that the extra calories that we're burning in the gym, right? The extra energy that we're expending is actually meaning that we're in a calorie deficit, okay? Now, for the people who are just like me in the past, the people that are keto people, right? So people that are just like me in the past, the keto people who feel like carbs are really, really bad for you. Let me explain really quickly why, if you're trying to gain muscle, right, why you should be eating your carbs, okay? If you do not eat carbs, right? Let's say your total intake for carbs for the day is 0 or maybe 10, 15, right? It's something really, really low. If you are not eating enough carbs, your body will break down protein to become glucose, right? Sugar, so that your body can continue to get the energy that it needs. Okay. This is a very inefficient system. And it's obviously not what we eat the protein for, right? We're not eating the protein to give us energy. We're eating the protein to have the amino acids to be able to build back up that muscle and to keep us full. So if you're cutting out the carbs, you're actually doing yourself a disservice in the gym. And this is why a lot of people who do keto and low carb diets end up getting really, really skinny and they don't have very much muscle on their frame, is because they're using the protein inoptimally. Versus if they just ate the carbs and they ate the foods that they probably enjoy and that they're restricting, they would be able to make sure that that protein would go in the right direction. And by doing the calorie deficit, they'd be able to make sure that they still lose the weight while putting on the muscle. Okay. So those are the really, really important things to understand here. The three that I would really make sure that we understand well is calories, right? Why we focus on calories, why these are important, what exactly they are, right? Being the energy that we take in, the protein, right? Why this is important to take in, how this helps us to gain muscle, how that helps us to continue to lose weight and to boost up our metabolism, and then why carbs are important, right? Our main energy source, the thing that allows protein to do what it needs to do. And honestly, the thing that 9 times out of 10 all of us love. Right? We do have to modify them, right? We can't just eat them in abundance, just like we can't eat calories or fat in abundance, right? We can't just eat as much of it as humanly possible. But if we are in the calorie deficit, right? If we're continuing to stay in a calorie deficit, we can eat carbs, we can eat protein, we can eat fat, and having a well balance of them is the best case scenario to be able to make sure that you lose that weight and you actually get the results you want, right? So now let's go into fats a little bit. Okay. Fats are the one that I don't spend the most time on because again, most of the time people hear and talk a lot about carbs and protein. Okay. Obviously, protein and calories are the ones that we focus on, but carbs are important. I'm sorry, fat is important because fat still allows us to have hormone functions to go on that aid in us being able to have optimal sleep and have these hormones to be able to allow us to lose some fat, right? It allows us to be able to do this. And again, healthy fat is good as well, right? Having extra virgin olive oil or having coconut oils or things like that do aid in having the total macro profile that you need to be able to continue to lose weight, to be able to have your body optimally running and running efficiently. And again, it can be good for a lot of the things that we need with hormone function, with sleep, with different levels that we need in the body to be able to make sure that we continue to lose weight. Okay. So again, just because I said carbs are good and protein's good does not mean fat needs to be eliminated. Okay. You can still have fat. You can still have a good amount of fat. Again, we just got to make sure that it's in good ratio. And the ones that I truly focus on are, and I do this all day, calories and the protein, okay? Just because again, they are the cause for losing weight and for gaining muscle, okay? And we're gonna get into that further down the road when we talk about body recomposition. But before we really got off of the nutrition label right behind me, I wanted to go into how exactly, right, the 245 calories here, what does that mean? How much of this would I eat to be able to get 245 calories or, whatever, double that, right? Almost 500 calories, right? How would I be able to do that? So reading this part right here above it is super, super important, okay? So the serving size is a cup. Okay. And again, I don't know exactly what this is. It looks like it could be, no, it has a lot of protein. I'm not sure exactly what this is. But for the 1 cup, that's what would be 245 calories. Now, an even better way of doing that is what it says right next to the 1 cup, which is 230 grams. Okay. This is what you can do by getting a weight scale. And that's what I would definitely recommend. This is how I weigh all of my meat, all of the sauces that I use, anything that I really do, I try to weigh it because that's going to be the most perfect way to be able to do it, right? So this is a candle that I have next to me, but I'm going to use it as an example. I guess I have to hold it in front of me to not have it go out of the way. But imagine that this is a cup, right? This is like your measuring cup, right? And you put it in there, right? You know how sometimes like if it's cheese, let's say, you'll have like a mountain of cheese kind of like on top, right? But it still fits into the cup. Some people will be like, hey, that's a cup, and they'll throw it in there, right? And okay, cool, that's a cup, it's 245 calories, I'm good, right? Whereas there's some people who brush it off the top, right? And they make sure that it's straight on the line right here. There's no more kind of bubbling over, and they'll put that in. They'll say that that's a cup, right? There's some people that'll leave a little divot in, right? They'll go ahead and put that in and say that that's a cup. So when you're measuring it this way versus weighing it, right? Having just the serving size, right? The measuring cup, it's not that it's a bad option. It's definitely better than just grabbing a handful and dropping it in and saying, hey, that looks like a cup, right? It's a lot better than that. But at the same time, it's not as accurate as doing the grams here or ounces or things like that where you're actually weighing it, right? And I've seen this for myself. I've gone ahead and put, a cup full of cheese, let's say, put it onto the scale, and it'll be 245 grams, right? Or something like that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. That's too much. Take a little bit off and throw it back into the bag. Again, that one individual instance isn't going to make that big of a difference, right? 15 grams, 230 is 245 calories. It's probably like less than 15 calories, right? It's not very much, or around 15 calories, right? That's not a huge amount off. So that's not the end of the world. But if you did that for 3 or 4 meals, right? Or let's say you had one big meal, but you did that for 6 or 7 ingredients, right? Now maybe we're looking in that range where it's 70 calories for that meal. You do that for 3 or 4 meals throughout the day, right? all of a sudden you're at 200, 280 calories that you're over that you're not tracking. So that's where you won't gain weight doing that necessarily, but it could slow down your progress. And that's really the main thing is that if it slows down your progress, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to be unmotivated, and that's going to cause you to not fully get to your results, right? Because when we're not motivated, we're going to fall off. When we get frustrated with the process, we're going to fall off. We're not enjoying it, we're not hitting milestones, we're not inspired, we're going to fall off. So it's much better to be a little bit more accurate, right? Make sure that we do something like weighing it, right? If we can, and then be able to go from there. Okay, so I wanted to go over what a serving size is. And again, these are all going to be different depending on what type of food it is, but weighing it is going to be your best option. And the way that I usually do that is either by, again, putting it onto something, weighing it out that way, or if it's like a bottle of something, right? Like let's say it's like a barbecue sauce. I'll take off the lid, right? Let's say this was my barbecue sauce. I'll take off the lid here, put it down, I'll weigh it, zero it out, then go over to whatever I'm going to pour it into, pour in some, go back and put it down, see how many, grams, ounces, whatever it is that I'm measuring it in, how many it is. If I have more room, right, then I'll go ahead and put more in. If it's already hit the number, then I stop. And obviously, if it goes over, then I have to change my calorie intake that I have for that and make sure that I account for it when I'm tracking things, right? So, all of this to be said, right? I know the big thing that a lot of people that are watching this are probably thinking is, sounds like a lot of work, man. Like, why can't I just like be able to do my measurement of a cup, man, and just be done? Like, why do I gotta weigh it out and do this, that, and the other and whatever? I definitely hear you. And I agree with you. And you could do it where it's just, hey, I measure out a cup, or maybe I grab that handful like I talked about and I just drop it in. Hey, that looks like a cup. All right, cool. But here's the thing, inconsistent strategy or weighing or being inconsistent with what we're putting in is going to lead to inconsistent results. And that is going to cause the frustration that's going to mean, I don't want to do this anymore, man. Like, I've been dieting for 6 months and I've lost 3 pounds, let's say, right? I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't working. Why am I spending all my time being in a calorie deficit and doing this, that, and the other, and I don't even get the results of it? Right? I'm just gonna give up. I'm gonna be, overweight. I'm gonna be this, that, and the other, and just give in and not accomplish my goals, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with being overweight. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to diet, right? If that's your choice, that's your choice. But if you truly want to get this done, right? This is a goal of yours. It's a non-negotiable in your life. You want health, you want longevity, you want to be able to run around with your kids or family members, go out and have a good quality of life, be able to travel and go on adventures and not have to worry about your weight or your energy or so on and so forth. Then being consistent will get you consistent results. Being inconsistent is going to get you inconsistent results. And the way that I put it is this: you're already doing work. You're already looking at the back of the nutrition. You're already going to the gym. You're walking more. You're drinking water. You cut out soda. You're doing this, that, and the other. Why would you stop here? Why is this the straw that breaks the camel's back and you're done? This is the last thing that you need to be able to be consistent and get consistent results. Don't stop here. Go ahead and put in that little extra work. It's not really that hard. It's really not. It's looking at something, it's doing some simple math, being able to use an app, right? MyFitnessPal, Lose It, even the Title Training app, so on and so forth, is going to make it a ton easier than it was 30 years ago when people didn't have these phones right in their hand to be able to pull out and be able to use, right? They had to go and write it down on a piece of paper or be able to go on a computer, right? And be able to do things like that. Or even before that, just again, paper. So it's become a lot easier. It's something that I get isn't super convenient, but super convenient led us to not being in the greatest health that we wanted to be in anyways, right? So why not just put in that little extra work, be super consistent with it, and be able to get those results that we want? And that'll keep it shorter term, right? The more consistent we can be, the faster we'll get those results, the more that we'll be able to get this done. Okay. So that is my little soapbox rant. I'll go ahead and step off my soapbox now, right? And start to talk about why we're looking at the I'm going to do it again, the calories and the protein when it comes to what we do here at Title Training, okay? And the reason being is very simple. Most people, when they want to lose weight, they don't mean that they want to become sickly skinny, right? They don't want to become skin and bones, arms looking like this, right? They don't want to have no leg muscle. They don't want to have no chest muscle, no shoulder muscle, so on and so forth, right? Just being super skinny. That's almost never the case. People who are usually that skinny also want to put on weight, right? So when people are talking about, hey, I want to lose weight, usually they mean I want to lose fat, right? And I want to be able to have some type of muscle, whether that's gain muscle from where I'm at, or if that means I want to be able to just maintain the muscle that I have right now. And either way, Being in a super, super restrictive calorie deficit, right? Keeping our calories super low, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 calories a day, maybe even 1,500 calories a day, depending on how large of an individual we are, whether we're male or female, whether we are older, younger, how our activity level is, so on and so forth. Uh, Being in a crazy calorie deficit like that is going to lead to you not only having to pull from fat for that energy, right? Which is what we want. We want to be able to pull from that fat to lose the weight, but it's also going to cause you to pull from muscle because, again, when we're in a really, really restrictive calorie deficit, our body is going to want to hold on to some level of fat and say, hey, for me, right? Hey, Cam, we're not going to let you lose all this fat because we still have a job to do, which is to keep you alive. So we're going to pull from other areas since this is so extreme, aka muscle, aka slowing you down, not allowing you to be as strong in the gym, not allowing you to be as energetic and go run around after work, not allowing you to do this, that, and the other, right? We're going to do those things instead of just losing all the fat, because at the end of the day, if we stay in this large calorie deficit and we go through all the muscle and we stop doing your activity and we're still in a bigger calorie deficit, I need something to be able to survive. So I'm going to hold on to this fat, right? That's where people end up losing the weight over time, right? They end up losing the fat, but they also lose the muscle, and then they're not happy with their results because now they don't look the way that they want to look, right? So this way allows us to lose the fat at a more consistent rate, right? But also allows us to keep the muscle or even put on muscle, depending on how much protein we're eating. So if we're eating in a calorie deficit, but a slight calorie deficit, not, you know, 12, 1,300 calories of a calorie deficit, but, you know, 4, 5, 600 calories, maybe 7, 800, depending on how, how much weight we have to lose, right? And we eat the protein, which allows us to go to the gym, rip that muscle, and continue to build it back up stronger and bigger and get the look that we want. Now we're doing something called body recomposition. And this is not going to lead to the dramatic, sexy, hey, I lost 50, 100, 150 pounds on the scale. It might, depending on how much you have to lose, but it's not going to be as dramatic of a fashion, right? But let me go ahead and give you this equation right here, right? Would you rather be the person who lost 40 pounds on the scale but lost 25 pounds of fat, let's say, and 15 pounds of muscle, right? That'd be 40, right? You lost 40 pounds on the scale, you lost 25 pounds of fat, you lost 15 pounds of muscle. Or the person who lost 20 pounds of muscle or 20 pounds on the scale, right? But you lost 30 pounds of fat and you gained 10 pounds of muscle, right? I would say that I want to be the person who lost 20 pounds on the scale, but lost 30 pounds of fat and gained 10 pounds of muscle, right? Because they're going to look better and they're going to have less fat on their body than the person who has the bigger, sexier number of 40, 40 pounds, but they lost some muscle along the way. They didn't lose as much fat as the other guy did, right? Or the other woman did, right? So that's the thing, is that the scale is not really as important as people put stock into it. They think that, hey, if the scale goes down, I'm doing the right things. And yes, that's a metric that we use and it's great. Okay. But it doesn't give you the full picture. Someone who's 180 pounds has no muscle on them, but has a good amount of fat on them, or someone who's 180 pounds who's lean as a rock, right? Just super strong, has all their muscles popping out, right? They both weigh 180 pounds on the scale. Blindfolded, you would not be able to tell the difference. But when you look at them side by side, oh yeah, those are completely different individuals with completely different body compositions, right? So that's the thing. We put too much stock into the scale versus being able to say, hey, I'm going to be in a slight calorie deficit. I'm getting it, guys. Slight calorie deficit. I'm going to be in, eating my protein, right? I'm going to be having my carbs. I'm going to be having my fats so that I have a well-balanced diet here. I'm going to lose the weight on the scale, but it's not going to be as big of a number. And I'm fine with that because I'm going to have the muscle. I'm going to maintain my muscle. And so, although, yes, we could get to 40, 50, we have people who on title training are down 80 pounds. Okay. But there are down a lot more than that just in terms of pure fat. Okay. They're probably down close to 95, 100 pounds just in pure fat and put back on some of that muscle, right? So the number on the scale is lower, but the body composition, the confidence that they have, the way that they feel about themselves is astronomically better than, let's say, someone who lost 120 pounds, but also lost 20, 25, 30 pounds of muscle. So again, the scale is great. It's a metric that we use, but don't put too much stock into it. Okay. And so again, focusing on the muscle standpoint of it and focusing on the protein standpoint of it, right? The reason why we want to do this, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the reason why we want to be able to continue to eat the protein and not just be in a calorie deficit, because people do this, right? They'll just be in a calorie deficit. Reason why we want to eat the protein is because eventually what our body does is as we continue to stay in a calorie deficit, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, our body wants to reach equilibrium, right? So if we're eating 1,800 calories a day, our body is going to drop our metabolism to the point where eventually it's burning 1,800 calories a day. So that calorie deficit that we were originally in is now going to be our maintenance calories. And that's where people hit plateaus, right? Now, if we are eating the protein, I'm getting it, guys. If we're eating the protein, we are going to be able to continue to rip that muscle in the gym and build it back up. So we have more muscle than when we originally started this journey. And by having more muscle, we're going to burn more calories to keep that muscle nourished. That's going to avoid being in the calorie deficit where it ends up disappearing, right? Having 2,200 calories that we're burning, 1,800 calories that we're eating, and having this come down so that now they're equal. When you continue to have the protein and build up that muscle, right? We go from here and here's our calorie deficit, right? And it starts to come down over time, but we're also fighting it and keeping it staying up. So now it's just kind of sitting here, and now we don't hit a plateau at all, or at least not as quickly, right? So then we continue to get more results. We feel more motivated, we feel more inspired, and we really feel amazing, right? So all of this to say is that yes, you need to be able to eat your protein. You need to be able to continue to be in a calorie deficit. You need to be able to do all these things, right? And in addition to that, you do need to go to the gym. But what I see far too often, and if it's you, it used to be me, so it's totally fine. It's not something that I'm saying that you did wrong or that you're a bad person or you're not doing the right things. Going to the gym really isn't as important as you make it out to be. People want to lose weight all the time, and their first thing that they're going to do is say, okay, we're going back to the gym. Why? You need to get this part of it, right? Everything that we're talking about here, understanding being in a calorie deficit, eating your protein, eating your carbs, being able to have a well-balanced meal, all that stuff needs to be priority over going to the gym. Going to the gym is absolutely an aspect of what we're going to be doing, right? But it needs to come secondary to getting the nutrition in place because just like you've heard, abs are made in the kitchen. There's a reason for that. The nutrition and how we eat and what we're putting in is way more important than what we're going to the gym and doing and burning it off. Okay. Again, you can be in a calorie deficit and you can continue to be below that without ever going to the gym, right? And again, you can go and just do body weight workouts, right? Push-ups and pull-ups and sit-ups and all those things. And that's plenty being in a calorie deficit and eating your protein to be able to lose the weight and gain some muscle that you want, right? And so again, the gym is great. It's for motivation. People like to go and socialize there, this, that, and the other. But again, just like with the scale, don't put too much stock into it, right? Do stuff that's going to allow you to actually get the results and stay motivated and stay encouraged. And again, consistent strategy, right? Consistent measuring, consistent hitting those goals, right? The calories and the protein is going to lead to consistent results. Okay. So this is what it's all about. We want to be able to have the strategy that's actually going to lend itself to us getting the results that we want and not just feeling like, hey, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to start going to the gym and it's all going to work out great. We need a strategy that's going to allow us to actually get the nutrition in place, that's actually going to allow us to be flexible with our lifestyle, right? Because if work picks up or whatever happens, the gym's usually the first thing to go. But we can still eat healthy. We can still be able to get in our calories and our protein and still continue to be on the straight and narrow to lose that weight. And then again, when things kind of slow down and we have more time, we can go back to the gym and continue to build that muscle. But we can do push-ups at home. We can do these things to be able to fit our busy lifestyle. And especially as being busy adults or busy parents, you guys need this aspect of it, right? In a way that allows you to still be able to eat with your kids, go out to restaurants, be on vacation, be able to do, celebrate fun moments in life, but also be able to reach your goals. And again, if you're a busy parent, if you're a busy adult, you might not always have time to go 5, 6, 7 days a week to the gym. You can go 2 to 3 and do a calorie deficit, right? Dang, I was doing so good. Do a calorie deficit and be able to still reach your goals. So that's the message that I want you to take away here is that obviously, yes, all this is super important and understanding this allows you to be able to do the nutrition. But in addition to that, being able to go out here and actually get these results because you're focused on the nutrition versus being focused on, I'm going to the gym and that's all I'm going to do, right? Or I'm going to focus on the nutrition and just kind of do this. Those are the things that are going to actually lead you to getting the results you want is actually focusing in on the nutrition and making sure that you're really able to do this and turn one day into a lifestyle. So we're back to our original background. I hope you guys had an amazing, amazing experience on this episode 5 of the Fit Life for Busy Parents podcast. I'm super glad to have you guys here. I would really recommend that you guys subscribe so you guys don't miss any future episodes. You guys don't miss any future podcasts because we have some great ones coming up with some great guests coming up in the following weeks. Let's go out there and continue to turn one day into a lifestyle, everybody. This is the Fit Life for Busy Parents podcast. Let's inspire and empower each other to go out there, achieve our fitness goals, and really believe that we can get this done through simple and easy strategies. Until next time, y'all, peace.